Hi everyone. So when I was first starting teaching rhetoric several years ago, we were in a traditional physical classroom and I'd do an activity. I'd draw a line on the board. On one end of the board, I'd write a statement like, I like dogs more than cats. At the other end of the board, I'd write, I like cats better than dogs. I'd then ask students to line up across the line based on where they felt they most agreed. If they strongly agreed with the pro-dog statement, they'd be at the far end. If they strongly agreed with the pro-cat statement, they'd be at the other far end. And if they didn't really agree or disagree with either, they'd be right in the middle. I'd then go down the line and ask a few students to share why they chose to stand where they stood. What was interesting was that students who were standing in the exact same spot might be doing so for different reasons. One student might be at the far end of I like dogs better than cats because they really loved their dog and had never had a cat. One student might be allergic to cats, and another student might be afraid of cats. Similarly, even though they ended up on the other end of the spectrum, someone who said they preferred cats could be doing so for similar reasons: personal experiences with cats, allergic reactions to dogs, or fear of dogs. In this week's reading in our textbook, the textbook describes the basics of comparison and contrast writing, of writing which talks about how two things within a group are similar, how two things within a group are different, or how two things within a group are both similar and different. In this lecture, though, I want to push a step beyond that to think about how to make sure that our comparisons and contrasts are discerning and critical. The exercise I mentioned above introduces an idea called mapping. Mapping is a mental exercise that considers how different perspectives or examples within a group relate to one another. The basic of comparison is to ask of these things, how are they similar, how are they different, and how do they overlap? That's basic comparison thinking. Mapping, though, adds the component of why are they similar, why are they different, and why do they overlap? Since it's election season, let's pretend we've got two people, Representative A and Representative B, who just support the same piece of legislation. They both make statements in support of this piece of legislation. Basic comparison and contrast writing would look at these two statements and point out how they're similar and or different. But comparison contrast writing, aided with mapping style thinking, might note that Representative A and Representative B are from different parts of the country, and the statements highlight how this single piece of legislation can help different parts of the country in different ways. They might know that Representative A and Representative B are from different parties, but that the statement highlights that this piece of legislation shows some common ground between the moderates of each party. They might note that Representative A comes from a working class background, and that Representative B comes from a wealthy family, and that although they both share the same point of view, their writing shows that their different backgrounds shape why and how they've each come to their point of view and why those point of views have a few key differences. To move closer to the specifics of what we've been discussing this week, we could even think of intersectionality as a kind of mapping, looking at how multiple identities overlap so that although all women share some experiences, Black women and Latinx women and white women are all going to have different experiences of womanhood in America because of their cultural and racial and perhaps immigration differences. For another example, LGBT plus people have things in common, but gay men have different experiences in society and even within the LGBT plus community than lesbian women. And as has been highlighted for the last several years in our news and in our politics, Black transgender women are at much greater risk of violence than any one of those identities by itself. The reason I share this lecture is because I want to encourage us to do thoughtful, detailed, nuanced work when we do comparative writing. I want our writing to avoid overgeneralizations and look at the specifics of how things differ and how they overlap. And above all, I want us to be mindful of why things are different and why they overlap. As always, reach out if you have questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to share in the assignment and discussion forum this week. Thanks to y'all. Bye.